All right, what's up, everybody? Okay, today's video, I want to talk about how Medicare drug coverage works and understanding the mechanisms behind calculation and stuff. Because routinely throughout the course of the year, or like when I talk to people during annual election period in the fall, or if they're first going on Medicare, pretty routinely the topic of the donut hole, or the official term being the coverage gap in drug plans, how it works, how I get into it, how I get out of it, why do I get into it, and those pieces. So, the important thing to understand is that current Medicare drug plans, okay, they have four different stages to them. So, stage number one would be a possible deductible. And if you have a deductible on your drug coverage, you're going to pay potentially the full cost of a prescription up to whatever that deductible is. A lot of plans nowadays, if you've got basic cheap generics, they won't apply the deductible. But if you got an expensive drug, possibly name brand, things like that, you could be subject to paying full cost of any drugs up till you satisfy that deductible, and that can range anywhere up to around several $100s, depending upon if a plan wants to put that on there or not. That's totally up to the insurance company as to whether they would assign a deductible on the plan. So, like for this year in 2023, a Medicare drug plan was capped at a deductible of $505. So, several plans don't assign one. Some plans do less than 500, some plans do up to, the 505 threshold. It just depends. Okay. So after stage one of the deductible, or if there isn't a deductible, you would go right into stage two. And so basically, the way that that works is when you're in the primary core um, initial coverage of the plan, okay, you will have your standardized copay and coinsurance schedule on the plan. So drugs have five core tiers of medication. How they classify those, again, that all depends on how the plan wants to classify it, whether it's generic, whether it's name brand, based on price and different things. So, what one plan classifies a drug as, like say tier three, another plan could classify it as tier four or could classify it as tier two. It just depends. And every year that's changing. But when you are in stage two, the initial coverage level, the way that it works is as you go get your drugs filled at a pharmacy and they process that drug through the plan that you're using, there are two pieces going into this. The first piece is what you pay potentially as a copay. So there's that piece. The other piece then that they add into it is what your plan is spending covering that drug. So I will give you a really great example because it's something I see a lot. Okay, Eliquis, which is becoming a very commonly prescribed medication. Okay, so Eliquis typically is several $100s a month in full cost. From what I see on average in the area, it's about $550 per, per 30 days. So someone's copay might be, say, $50 a month. Okay. That's what they pay at the pharmacy. And what the plan is spending is, say, 550, okay? So your total cost is not just what you're paying, it's combining the two numbers together. So you pay 50, plan pays 550. The total there is 600, okay? The initial coverage level amongst all your prescriptions that you get filled through the plan, okay, that this year in 2023 was 4,660, okay, combined, and that includes if you have a deductible on your plan, okay? So as you go through the year and as your prescriptions get refilled and they add it up in the system and you get a statement, it lets you know. Okay, so it shouldn't ever be a surprise if you're looking at it through the course of the year, but a lot of people still get a surprise. They'll go to the pharmacy in August or September and that copay for Eliquis is no longer 50 bucks, it's 135. Okay, and let's talk about that. So when you eclipse 4660 in total cost for the year, you go into the third stage of drug coverage, which is called the coverage gap, or what everybody knows now as the donut hole. Okay. And basically, what it means is there's a temporary limit on what the drug plan will cover for drugs. Okay. Not everybody enters the coverage gap. So, if you're a person that doesn't have expensive meds, obviously this is a moot point. It won't even apply to you. But if you have expensive meds, it could be. So, the third phase, then, this coverage gap donut hole, okay, so once you and your plan have spent the 4660 on covered drugs for the year, okay, you're in the coverage gap. So what that then means is once you're in the coverage gap, okay, you will pay up to 25% of the cost for the plan's covered drugs. Okay. So using Eliquis as an example, once you go into the coverage gap, it's no longer a $50 copay. It's 25% of the cost of the drug. So that's why people see a jump. And it's not just Eliquis. You've got inhalers, you've got other expensive meds where that cost can jump. Okay. So the thing to keep in mind then is that it's really important to track this from the beginning. Have, like me, for example, as an agent, as an advisor, put all your prescriptions in the system. Let's look at pharmacies, let's look at costs, etc. And you you've got to look at all these pieces because it's really important to understand if I'm going to hit the coverage gap and when it's assumed I'm going to hit the coverage gap, okay, then it's really important to know when that's going to happen so that I don't have, sticker shock in the moment at the pharmacy. Okay, that's really, really important. Okay, so the fourth phase then would be what they call catastrophic coverage. So you're in the coverage gap, the donut hole, until your cost for the year hits 7,400. Okay. And once you get to the coverage gap, you will have or once you get through the coverage gap into catastrophic coverage, your costs go down exponentially. You're going to be around a 5%-ish share on that. So, there can be a break towards the end of the year. Um, you know, but I want to highlight the understanding that the coverage gap shouldn't ever be a surprise for someone if they've been properly educated, if they understand the the mechanisms behind it. Okay. And so just as a quick recap, so drug plans have four different phases, four different areas to them. Number one is your deductible, if there is one. Okay. Number two, stage two, is what they call initial coverage. So this would be your standard copays, coinsurance potentially if it's a more expensive, tier. And then when your drugs total between what you pay and what the plan pays eclipses that 4660 here in 2023, you'll go into the coverage gap, the donut hole, and then you're going to pay basically, 25% cost share on that. And then if you eclipse 7,400 in cost spending, then you'll go into catastrophic coverage for the rest of the year. In which case your cost then will go way, way down as a benefit. But as you know, by the time you get there, the damage has already been done from a cost standpoint. So I hope this helps kind of clarify things. Certainly it's a case by case basis. We would want to analyze what you specifically have, what your refill schedule is, what pharmacy you're using, those kind of things. So I hope this helps kind of clarify that a little bit, but it's important to check. It's important to understand if you have expensive meds, we want to look at that ahead of time and understand potentially the implications that could be there from a out of pocket standpoint of what you could be spending through the course of the year. And then, of course, remember annual election period every year between October 15 and December 7. We've got the right to look at that and make any changes for the upcoming year. So always keep that in mind. But any questions, feel free to reach out, leave a post, leave a comment, questions, anything like that. And we will talk to you again next time. Thanks. Have a good day.